I'll sing you a ditty, it's short and it's witty, about this square prison in Frongoch, you know. We're from all over Ireland, for serving our sireland. Sinn Féiners, all traitors, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh.
The aftermath of the 1916 Rising is well chronicled in Irish songs, at least as far as the leaders are concerned. From Joseph Plunkett's marriage to Grace Gifford and Nicole Kilmainham's cell, O'Connelly's untimely demise strapped to a chair. But those we hear less about are the others, men and women who didn't lead the Rising, but paid the price afterwards. We travelled to Inishowen to visit singers Grace and Colm Toland, to learn about their grandfather Seamus, who joined the revolutionary fight at the turn of the 20th century.
This is the final resting place of Seamus Kavanagh. You can see officer commanding Derry Brigade IRA, 1916 to 22. This is the man that was arrested after 1916 and went to Frongoch. I think that's how you're here, to find out about it.
And who was he to you?
Grandfather.
Our grandfather and grandmother, yeah, who were called Aher and Waher. That's how we've always known them. That's the name that was used in our house to talk about them.
Yeah.
When people think about 1916, people tend to think Dublin, and this is telling another story about what was going on in Derry at the time.
We're ordered out from Portsmouth for many's a long mile, for to join a British army on the banks of the Nile. Oh, Willie, dear Willie, don't leave me here to mourn, for I will curse and rue the day that ever I was born.
As a young man, he joined the British Army and went off soldiering. And when he came 1904, 1905, when he came home, he had totally changed. His whole attitude changed when he saw how the British treated the natives in India, and especially the Boers. He realised that that's how the British controlled the Irish in Ireland. So from being, I suppose, a happy-go-lucky young man, he became very politicised. The first inkling of sort of politicisation was when the Redmonite Volunteers were founded. First man in was Seamus Kavanagh, and he became secretary of the Irish National Volunteers, as they were called, John Redmond's Volunteers. I'd say because he was politicised, he realised that the British were again at their old tricks. They were using Irishmen as cannon fodder.
When we had taken a last fond look at Derry's ancient town, may misfortune never fall on her, or courage pull her down. She's the grand female of my heart, she's the girl I do adore. May the angels bright, they shed a soft light all around the Shamrock Shore.
This song called The Shamrock Shore, and I suppose it's an early version of the kind of well-known Paddy's Green Shamrock Shore, sung by a man called Jimmy Houghton from the Isle of Doe. Both myself and Colm are very fortunate to have had singing in our lives from home, and I think because it specifically has a verse featuring Derry, I just thought it sets the scene for Seamus Kavanagh, and then for the life that, you know, Colm and I have ended up living in the Inishowen Peninsula.
After joining the Irish Volunteers, Seamus Kavanagh was involved in the mobilisation of rebels in Derry for the 1916 Rising, but received orders at the last minute to stand down. as remembered here in an account by one of the soldiers.
This comes from the Bureau of Military History, and it's an account by a man called Liam Brady. That night, Seamus Kavanagh notified a select number of volunteers to meet at John Doherty's shed at the top of Gwilym Street, which was an outlying portion of Watt's distillery. Each man was to bring the heaviest top coat he had, his rifle, revolver and ammunition, with all the other equipment and enough rations to last for 2 days. In Doherty's shed, Kavanagh checked his men, who numbered 17. Their equipment consisted of 5 Lee Enfield rifles, 5 Mausers, 2 Hoth rifles, 5 Martin Henrys, short carabines, about 100 rounds of ammunition per man, and 22 handmade bombs. No one was allowed to smoke or to light a match. There was a split in the door with which the volunteers could see out, as a street lamp was burning outside. There was a tense moment when 2 policemen put their backs against the door. They stood there for about 10 minutes. Little did they know that a number of rifles were pointed at them, ready to shoot if they made one false move. But they moved off as quickly as they came. After waiting until 5:30 the next morning, the volunteers, through Dennis McCullough of Belfast, received McNeill's countermanding orders, calling off the mobilisation with instructions to wait for further orders.
After the rising, roughly 1,800 men, which included Seamus Kavanagh, a young Michael Collins, and many others with little or no involvement in the conflict, were sentenced without trial and brought to Frongoch prison camp in rural Wales.
They took 8 men from Derry. They're handcuffed together. They're taken by train to Dublin, and they stop at Portadown to have a sandwich. They arrive in what's now Connolly Station. They're marched through Dublin, crowds booing them and throwing stones at them, other people cheering and things like that. It's all in the diaries, so it is. What happened then was they were taken to various jails in Britain. This is Seamus Kavanagh's account of the aftermath of the 1916 rising, so it is. Frongoch, 1596, at 10. I was unlucky to be separated from the rest of the dairymen here in the first week. Food, 6 biscuits and 12 ounces of canned beef and a pint of alleged tea, morning and evening. On the 3rd day, 2 spuds, rotten, per man was added.
Their hearts with hope gleaming, sure I see them again, in all my daydreaming. Glory, oh, to the bold Fenian men.
Well, the stuff over on that side there are various things that he made, when in various prison camps. This is now is the jewel in the crown, so it is. This is a belt that we know was made in Frongoch. That's a tricolour. That's the flag of the Transvaal, the Boer flag. Here was a man who 16 years previously had fought against the Boers, and now he had changed sides. He was on the same side. Quite a unique piece of work altogether.
Men, they've told us their cause was a failure. They fought for old Ireland and never feared danger. Glory, oh, to the bold Fenian men. I passed on my way, God be praised that I met her, be life long or short, I'll never forget her. We may have brave men, but we'll never have better. Glory, oh, glory.
he was allowed to send postcards home. And here we have, and if you see, the names are all written in this beautiful Irish script. There are a few that have survived where his wife wrote to him, you know, and like, this is one of them now. Dear husband, just a few lines. Hope you get these pipes all right this time and that they don't get broke. Don't be taking a notion of them young girls. Seamus says you get too many raisins in your bread. She was sending him bread. And it's the son, Seamus was the son. You're getting too many raisins in your bread. I might give him some of them to eat. I will wish you all sorts of joy eating it, but I would rather be beside you and making the tea for you from your own dear girl.
Dyma'r hen dir rwy'n I garu, hen di can a phennill yng Nghymru, a'r gwellt iddo'n do, a'r drws hybryn clo.
Frongoch is an area rich with its own song culture. We travelled to meet Welsh singer Gwilym Bowen Rhys at a chapel outside the town, where another local singer, Bob Tarvelin, who lived here in 1916, once acted as precentor or carol raiser.
Digon o le wrth y pentan, I gynnwys y teulu yn gyfan, ac olau'r tan mawn yn hyfryd ag awn, I gadw'r tywyllwch tu We're in a chapel in Colm Toland, just outside Bala, and yeah, it's a good example of a typical Welsh Methodist chapel. This used to be the chapel of Bob Tarvelin, which is a singer. He became famous very late in life. In his 70s and 80s is when he started recording, or people started recording him singing, and he still had a top tenor voice. And he used to be the Codwr Canu here, which means the raiser of the song. So you would have everybody standing singing hymns, and he would be facing the congregation to lead the song. And I've learnt a lot of songs from his recordings. So yeah, he's an important figure in Welsh music. I have heard that that Bob Tarvelin had met Michael Collins while he was here. There was definitely connections between the local people and the prisoners. A lot of the local people I didn't even know what was happening, because you know maybe most people couldn't read English here, only Welsh. So I don't know how sort of clued up they were about the situation politically and everything. But there's a story of Michael Collins befriending this boy who would come and give, you know, deliver stuff to them from the town, and Collins asked for a Welsh dictionary, a Welsh English dictionary, so he could sort of maybe talk a little bit of Welsh to the locals and sort of gain their trust maybe. Mae gen I awydd gan y can, wel dewch ynys bob jocyn, o fawl i'r ddiod fel y tan, a wnaed o ddŵr Tryweryn.
In recent years, a selection of different Frongoch residents have taken an interest in the commemoration of Irish history. We paid a visit to Alwyn Jones, a local farmer living on the site where the camp once stood. Alwyn is currently in the process of building a museum dedicated to the camp.
Croeso Frongoch. Welcome to Frongoch. What's your step going in? The first prisoner came here on the 9th of June 1916. This is a sketch made by one of the prisoners, artist Robert Bala. He did lots of sketches. There was North Camp up the top of the village there. This would be going back to when the camp was a whiskey distillery. Some of the workers on the distillery.
Mae gen I awydd gan y can, wel dewch ynys bob jocyn, o fawl i'r ddiod fel y tan, a wnaed o ddŵr Tryweryn. Lle mae'r gogoniant gyntaf i Gymru ci aeth am ti, does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr Tryweryn. Does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr Tryweryn. Hwn oedd yn ddiod heb ei ail at bob ryw afiechydon, yn well nag unrhyw ddiod dail I atgyfodi cleifion. Frongoch oedd gystal ac yn sbad bob pla, iechyd da. Does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr Tryweryn. Does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr Tryweryn. So the song is called Dŵr Tryweryn, which means the water of Tryweryn. The water that was used to make the whiskey distillery that was later used as the camp that kept the rebels. Even though whiskey was distilled in Wales traditionally going back centuries, at that point in time and in this area it wasn't very popular, so unfortunately it didn't last very long. But they had at least one person who liked it, because he's lamenting at the fact that they're not producing the whiskey anymore. And I've got a favourite line in it. It says, "Ond yn awr does gennym ni'm hawl I ganu mawl I ddŵr y diawl," and it's all rhyming, and it means now we don't have the right to sing the praise of the water of the devil. And it's all like in rhymes. Does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr Tryweryn. Does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr Tryweryn. Does dim sy well I ddyn, na joch o ddŵr.
That's a photo of a wooden bridge crossing the River Tryweryn. They were used by the prisoners to go to their recreation field. And the Irish prisoners would have a sports days there and Gaelic football matches as well. They organised their own recreation, really. Michael Collins excelled at sport. He's a very competitive person. That would be the Frongoch Hill 16.
From what I understand, within the camp, the rebels had, you know, a lot of sort of freedom to do what they liked. They were basically planning the revolution from there, and it was, you could argue, it was one of the biggest mistakes that the Brits made, was get all the rebels and put them in together, you know, so they can organize themselves, you know. And they were, you know, they were sort of talking about tactics and, you know, the lay of the land in Ireland, how we're going to organize the revolution, to, you know, looking at the, you know, dissecting guns and teaching each other Irish, and, you know, and their sense of identity was so fired up by the obvious injustice of it all.
Old school, the rave lords, I would know that to mean the University of Revolution.
As part of the days that when the prisoners were here, that not only they would go lessons in Gaelic language, and other things, they also planned for the revolution after they went home, and possibly, you know, tactics, guerrilla warfare, things like that.
It's nice because people around here are quite proud that they've inadvertently taken a part in you know, in what's happened later.
Well, I'll finish my song now, for 'twill not be long now, for to keep us in Frongoch 'twill be a no-go, and we'll sail back to Ireland, the home of our sire land. Sinn Féiners, all traitors, alive, alive, oh, alive.
For the British government, the Frongoch experiment was short-lived. After mounting political pressure, criticising the British for interning the men without trial, the government began slowly releasing the prisoners towards the end of 1916.
Alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, alive, alive, oh, Sinn Féiners, all
2nd of August, and Doherty's and McKenna go this evening. I'm the last of our crowd here. 3rd of August. I'm off myself tonight. 32 of us travelling via Holyhead and Kingstown. 4th. We crossed over last night in the SS Leinster. Calm night. As we sighted the old land again, we sang a few of our own songs. After Frongoch, he became, and when he came home, he became head over heels involved in the IRA in the build-up to the War of Independence. And he was active in the War of Independence. We know that because this is a War of Independence medal, and written on it is the word Corac, which means fight or battle. And you only got one of those if you were involved in a firefight and you had witnesses to prove it. Seamus O'Keefe, Canafort Ugly, there, 1916.
Spending time in Frongoch, I wondered why a Welsh town would take such an interest in Irish history. Speaking to Gwilym, it seems that the 1916 story is one that gives some locals hope for the future.
Independence has always seemed sort of like an impossible goal, but in the last few years, you know, everything that's happened politically, and Brexit, and sort of looking forward to very, very possibly the independence of Scotland, the reunification of Ireland. We're asking ourselves, oh, what's our place in this? Is it just going to be England and Wales? And a lot of people don't like that idea. So yeah, I think a lot of people in the last few years have sort of woken up to the idea of independence as a viable goal.